Hello everybody, my name is Justin Gotzi. For the Sports Beat, yes, you guys have heard, the football source has decided to go in a new direction and we are branching out to cover all sports. So this is about my fourth time giving it another try and writing all sports. We got a whole staff, onto the network. So we were all set to go and give you guys the best coverage, the best to our ability. And, this is something that we've been wanting to do, but, we wanted to start off with football first, but we start getting this good drive to start, talking all sports, trying to become members of the media and everything like that and so on and so forth. So I really hope you guys do get accustomed to seeing some more all sports videos here on this channel. So I really do appreciate it. But as you guys can see by the look of this title, I'm talking about my San Diego Chargers. But once again, before we get into that, something very tragic happened the other day, and it's involving former Tennessee Titans kicker Rob Baronis, and Rob Baronis has passed away at the age of 36 from a car accident. He was driving, I think it was an SUV. It hit a couple of trees, and it turned the entire SUV over, which ended his life. He actually married the Terry Bradshaw's daughter, and this is a very emotional time for the Baronis family, the Bradshaw family as well. So I'm going to take a quick moment of silence here because Rob Baronis is, next to Nick Novak, has been my favorite kicker in the NFL for years now, and for seeing this happen, it's very, very hard to see one of your favorite players pass away. So I'm going to take a second here and just have a quick moment of silence, and then we'll get right into the video. Alright, thank you guys. So let's talk about what happened today on the football field. It's week 3 of the 2014 NFL season, and we are here talking about the San Diego Chargers, as this team has now reached a 2-1 record. They are tied with the Denver Broncos in their division, and this is a very, very complete turnaround of the San Diego Chargers. A lot of people expected them to start the season 3-0. I expected them to start the season either at 1-1 within the first couple of games, or possibly even 0-2. I always said that the Arizona Cardinals are going to be a team it's really hard to compete against the Arizona Cardinals. The Chargers lost to them. The San Diego Chargers come in week 2, and I expected Arizona to defeat the Chargers. I've also said that maybe San Diego could pull out a victory against Arizona. Arizona got the victory there, but when it was coming up against the Seattle Seahawks, a lot of people, 98% of the nation, even said that San Diego was going to lose to Seattle. San Diego continued that clock management and won, defeating the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. And then today they have just won their second game in a row against the Buffalo Bills. And not only did they win today, but you know what? They also lost a huge piece of their offense. Danny Woodhead, the team's backup running back. San Diego is having less success right now at the running back position. And today Danny Woodhead left on his first carry in the first quarter. He left with an ankle injury. It's a high ankle sprain. He will now have to undergo surgery, and he will miss out the remainder of the 2014 NFL season. This is a huge blow to the San Diego Chargers offense, because it was always Ryan Matthews to really carry that heavy workload. But when it comes to 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6, where San Diego is very successful on third downs and on the short yardage situation, Danny Woodhead was always that guy San Diego depended on. And now that you're not going to have him on your roster for the remainder of the year, it's going to be a very struggling state. Who's going to replace him? There's a lot of guys that really come to our mind on who's going to be taking over. San Diego still has a pretty interesting running back core. Now you're going to have Ryan Matthews. You have Ryan Matthews out. He's going to be out for a couple more weeks, and you also have Donald Brown, who came over from the Indianapolis Colts. San Diego's lucky to have him on the roster, because San Diego entering this year, they had a lot of questions about the success of Ryan Matthews. A lot of people, and I'm all in agreement with a lot of people, I don't think Ryan Matthews will be back with San Diego for the 2015 year. But nevertheless, you got to talk about what's happening currently, what's going on the field. San Diego will now have to really look at what they have going in the next week. They're playing off against Jacksonville. You're obviously going to end up having to throw the ball a little bit more. Donald Brown had a very, okay game. He had the most carries. He broke his single season yardage per game in carries. He broke that record for himself today, because San Diego's starting to use him more because Ryan Matthews is out with injury. And now that you have Danny Woodhead out, Donald Brown's expected to carry more of the workload. So San Diego is now left with Brendan Oliver, an undrafted free agent out of Buffalo, and a guy who a lot of people are very underestimating, and that is Marion Grice, a former Arizona State running back. He's a former standout. He led the nation in points in 2013. A lot of people are very underestimating what he can do. He's still a legitimate project in the NFL, but the biggest thing is trying to get and secure, some depth at their running back position. Donald Brown can carry it on his own. This was Donald Brown's first game as a legitimate starter, and you look at the defense of the Buffalo Bills, they completely stuffed Donald Brown on 98% of the time. Donald Brown has had those times where he was able to crack maybe 5 or 6 yards, but that's pretty much about it. But he has not had that explosive run yet in San Diego, so he's gonna have to end up start experiencing a little bit more and trying to get everything under wraps. But he cannot do it by himself. You don't have Danny Woodhead, you don't have a Ryan Matthews. You're going to have to go with Brandon Oliver likely as your backup. But a lot of people, you don't want to sleep on what Marion Grice can do. I can expect San Diego to call Marion Grice up from the practice squad, because San Diego did release him during the final weeks of the preseason, so that's going to be pretty crucial to see on what you guys expect to see from Marion Grice. I think it was pretty questionable, like why would they draft Marion Grice if he wasn't going to contribute. He was drafted in the 6th round, and then Tevin Reese. There was 2 draft picks that didn't make San Diego's active roster this year, and that was Tevin Reese out of Baylor and also Marion Grice from Arizona State. So San Diego ended up drafting him, but not keeping him on the active roster. Tevin Reese went on to go sign with the Cincinnati Bengals, but the team decided to keep Marion Grice around on the practice roster. But I still consider him just being one of those side acquirements to the team, and just to add for future depth at the roster. So San Diego would have to go with Donald Brown for the time being, but backup could still be an open competition this week during practice. I know next week they're facing off against Jacksonville. You can probably end up having Brandon Oliver as your number 2 running back, but Donald Brown's going to get the bulk of the carries, and Brandon Oliver has had a couple of successful runs here and there for San Diego tonight during the Buffalo Bills, but that's pretty much about it. So when we really look at this, San Diego is going to have some time to really, break in, Marion Grice if they want to call him up. I don't think they're going to end up picking up a street free agent. I think that's just going to be the best possibility for the team going forward. So let me hear your guys' opinion about this. Danny Woodhead goes down with the season-ending ankle operation. This will affect the San Diego Chargers rushing game a tad bit. Ryan Matthews, the team is not going to be really missing Ryan Matthews, but you know what? You're looking into next year's draft, there's always a solid replacement. There's TJ Yeldon. There's a bunch of Todd Gurley. There's a lot of replacements in the draft, at the running back, and I think, either Gurley or TJ Yeldon will be suitable replacements for Ryan Matthews if he does not continue to, improve for the San Diego Chargers by the end of this year. So let me hear your guys' opinion about this. I'm Justin Gotti for the Sports Beat. I'll catch you guys in our next